Hey yo, what's up, nerds? Today we're going to be talking about a topic that's pretty important to a lot of people today for pretty obvious reasons. It's quite confusing, and it is which bathroom should I be using? First we're going to lay out some ground rules, right? So, only carbon based life forms are allowed to use public restrooms. I think everybody knows this by now. You should never wear sunglasses in a restroom, and you should never eat beans in a public restroom. Now, a lot of people fail to understand this. Certainly, when I was a kid, I made this mistake a lot, and I definitely regret it, but it just keeps happening over and over. You can't stop once you start, man. Eating beans in the restroom is like, it's like crack. Okay, so step 1A is you got to know your options, right? You got to figure out what bathroom you want to use, and to do that, you need to take a look at what's available. So we're going to run through a couple here. So the common options that you're going to run into are transgender bathrooms or non-binary bathrooms, whatever you like to call it. These are kind of like the strawberry and the Neapolitan example. Women's restrooms are vanilla, men's are chocolate, and obviously disabled restrooms are kind of like the mint chocolate chip of restrooms. I think everybody kind of gets where I'm going with that. Let's not overcomplicate it. So, male restrooms. So the pros, the benefits you have available in these are there will be urinals available. These rarely contain lions. It's kind of a double-edged sword. We'll get to this later in the cons section. The soap is free. You can take it home in your pocket. For the more industrious of us, this provides a business opportunity to collect soap repeatedly from men's restrooms and then distribute it online. There are plenty of potential friends if you're social enough. You know, you got to be outgoing and befriend the other people in the men's restroom. The cons. Player versus player combat is enabled in men's restrooms, so much so that 90% of bathroom brawls actually transpire in male restrooms. So again, they rarely contain lions. This is kind of a good thing in terms of safety, but also it really limits how exciting your trip to the bathroom will be. And third con is it's kind of gay, really. I mean, like, what, you want to go in a room with a bunch of other men and pull your pants down? It's kind of gay. I don't know. I only use these sparingly. So women's restrooms, pros are safer, far less combat. It's almost non-existent. Next up, they're cleaner. They're very rarely in the path of the barbarian hordes, unlike the other bathrooms available here. Slightly reduced tomfoolery compared to your other options. This isn't a huge factor, though. And they're shark-proof, always above water for the most part, and you're not going to run into any sharks. You'll be all right. Next up, cons. There are no urinals in the women's restrooms. This is a big issue. 2, the vibe is far less friendly. You'll pick that up as soon as you walk in. And 3, the rule against parkour is more strictly enforced than in these other restrooms. We'll see in a minute that in disabled restrooms, parkour is actually completely allowed and legal. In the other ones, it's not so much allowed, but you can get away with it. In here, no shot. All right, next up, gender-neutral restrooms. So there's kind of a random chance you'll end up with urinals in here. It's like 50-50 shot. If you're lucky, you'll get one, but there's a decent chance you won't. There's more interesting people inside, tend to be more colorful and lively, which is nice. However, they're often not social butterflies, and they're kind of introverts, and as such, if you are a confident person, you can kind of just adopt these people and force them to be your friend and eventually join your militia, which will very much help you if you find yourself in the path of those barbarian hordes that are such a problem these days. The cons are random urinal chance, right? Because there's a chance you won't run into one, and that's just how it is. average combat chance, but much lower than in the men's room. So you're still pretty safe in here, but you got to watch out a little bit. Next up, disabled restrooms. So the pros here are combat is rare, and in a combat scenario, you'll win, right? You got this, pretty easy. Next up, bigger stalls. That's a big one. And finally, one of the biggest benefits of disabled restrooms is parkour is completely enabled. We can tell by the picture that I set as the background here. This dude is just he's hitting the crazy stunt in the wheelchair. He's got it going. Why don't you? So the cons of disabled restrooms are there's no urinals. Again, run into this problem. It's a constant issue. Longer lines typically, because a lot of people you find in here can't exactly get a move on with things. There's kind of a social stigma about going into these, just because of the assumption that you have to be disabled at this point in time to use a disabled restroom, which I don't think is legitimate, but whatever. And finally, they are the mint chocolate chip of restrooms, which we touched on earlier. Next, family restrooms. So, very similar to disabled restrooms, you're going to have larger stalls. They're going to be cleaner. One benefit that this has over the disabled restrooms is there will be urinals. Parkour is not allowed, though. Cons are you may end up in a combat scenario with a father if you're in there checking out the kids menu. Risky if you don't bring a kid, because similar to the disabled restroom, people kind of assume that you should have a family if you're going to use a family restroom. Now, I don't think this is legitimate because I don't follow a linear time flow like a lot of people. So even though I don't currently have a family and I'm not currently disabled, that doesn't mean I won't be at some point. And since I will inevitably be that thing at some point in the past or future, that means that I already have the right to use these restrooms. Next, bonus restrooms. So the ones in people's houses are a good option. So main thing here is you will have to break in, and every other detail about this kind of has to stem from that. So everyone who's home is going to think you're a robber, and as a result, the cops are going to come. So these are kind of high risk, high reward bathrooms, and they certainly are not the little leagues. So segregated bathrooms, back in the day, this was a big thing. They've fallen out of popularity. They haven't really been used for at least 2 years. There's always kind of a weird vibe in them, and you're undeniably stripped of your free will no matter which kind you use. So I would just steer clear of these. And third is Nevermind. So the conclusion is each bathroom has unique benefits and drawbacks, and you should really just use what works for your current situation. There's all sorts of factors that go into it, what's available. It's a whole thing. And last note is only using one kind of bathroom is kind of gay, right? You want to mix it up every now and then. Keep it fresh. Make sure you're seeing what life has to offer. That's all we got here today. Have a good one.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's